Rhett, man, we are so excited to be joined by a friend of the program. You see him on NFL Network, you see him on Big Ten Network, and perhaps most importantly, you see and hear him on the Raiders NFL Draft podcast. Shameless plug alert, our man, Rhett Lewis. Rhett, dude, it is so good to see you. It's so good to catch up with you when we're not quite yet looking ahead to the draft. But how the heck are you, sir?
Man, it's awesome. Always great to catch up with my silver and black friends and all of my friends at Raider Nation. It's kind of an interesting time. I've been up on Thursday nights. I've been doing the NFL Network coverage pre, half, and post game for our live preseason games, and I've been up there with Daniel Jeremiah and, of course, our very own Bucky Brooks. And so, like, we all kind of look at each other and we're like, this is like the draft. Coming, like everything that we talked about for 5 months kind of starting to come to fruition now in actual game form, right? Because all these rookies, all these young players that we've talked about, exhaustingly during the draft process, now we get to see what it actually looks like and, how right we were on all these guys.
I am going to ask you about one of our young guys in a second, but, I was talking to you this week, and obviously the big news surrounding the silver and black, Gardner Minshew is QB1, and I'm just kind of curious, right, from a national perspective, and you and our friends at the network do such a good job of kind of zooming out in the best way and kind of putting us in the puzzle of the 32 teams. Like, when you look at Minshew Mania now officially descending upon Las Vegas, like, were you surprised that AP ultimately went with him as the guy to start the season?
No, I'm not. And I think the most important thing to understand here is that this doesn't have to be like the death knell on Aiden O'Connell's future in Las Vegas either. Right. I mean, like, I think we gotta like take into context that he is still a young player that, he went 500 in his starts last year, but there's still room for him to grow. And I think being around Gardner is going to continue that opportunity for him to grow. Now, the thing about Gardner is just an absolute baller, gamer, edgy. That's what we love about Minshew Mania, right? I actually texted him after he got the job, and like I could almost like envision his response, which was something of the lines of "Let's blank go."
Yeah.
Like I almost picture like what he was doing as he was crafting that response, like hair kind of flowing a little bit, and I love that he's getting this opportunity because there are few guys in this league that I think appreciate that opportunity the way that he does. And I think when you appreciate that opportunity and your teammates see you appreciating that opportunity, that respect for you grows like even more so. Right. And I think he's earned it. And I think I'm glad he's getting a shot to go week 1. Right. And instead of like being the guy that comes in week 4, like he did last year with the Colts and had to carry that team and damn near led him to the playoffs last year. Let's keep that in mind too, right? So I think there's a real opportunity for Gardner to endear himself to this fan base, to this team, to this franchise, and to his team.
Yeah, big time. And I think what's great about this too, and kind of reading between the lines and of what AP has said over the past couple of weeks, he keeps coming back to the phrase like wanting to start fast, right? You look at the Raiders a year ago. Yes, you win the season opener, but you wake up in October and you're 1-3, and you feel like, okay, now we're kind of climbing the mountain behind the Chiefs. But the Raiders this year, back-to-back road games. 3 of the first 4 teams you're going to play really, really good, really stout defenses. And it feels like having the wily vet back there, the guy who has seen a lot in the NFL, as opposed to Aiden O'Connell, who did a phenomenal job last year kind of coming in relief, but just doesn't have that wealth of experience yet. Like, it feels like it's the logical, makes sense for right now play.
Absolutely. And look, you never want to look too far down the road and be like, let's do it. Let's hope this works, but then, we still got Aiden if we need to, but like you do also, right? So like that's something to keep in mind as well. A guy that's got a ton of reps now in this offense and moving forward that way with Coach Getsy. But I think for Gardner, it does give you the ability to start fast because nothing he does is like, all right, let me just dip my toe in the water here and feel this thing out. Like let's jump in, let's cannonball into this thing and let's get cooking right away. And I think that's kind of what we've seen his entire career. Like even when he comes in relief appearances, man, it's like, bam, like we're not just handing the ball off. We can let this guy rip it around here a little bit. I think at times what we've seen with Gardner is like, there's been an immediate jolt and then a little bit of a leveling off in some of the places that he's been. But I think that's where guys like Zamir White and that's where guys like Devontae Adams come in to really kind of help keep that upward trend line rolling with Gardner at the helm of this offense. So I think as long as the offensive line stays healthy, now that Colton's back and getting JPJ rolling, speaking of the rookies, I think there's a real opportunity for Gardner to deal in this Luke Getsy offense.
And I'm glad you brought up the offensive line too, and certainly all the people here in this building, all the fans of this team, been waiting anxiously for Colton to come off the PUP list. Your big dog franchise left tackle, and you're just waiting, and earlier this week he comes off the PUP list. But I was thinking too, like just in like a very kind of reasonable, logical way, right? Like if you're Luke Getsy, if you're AP, and you make this decision, and you're still having some question marks about what this offensive line is going to look like, understanding maybe it hasn't reached its final form in week one, then it does make sense to have a guy like Gardner who can operate off script a little bit, who is a little more mobile, who can play, we all love it, that backyard style of football. So when you look at that, it very much seems like, okay, maybe the offensive line week one isn't what it looks like week 8, and maybe let's have the guy who can be a little more creative, a little more explosive with his legs out there to kind of do his thing in the meantime.
I also think it's a little unfair to judge the offensive line right
Fair,
now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, rising tide raises all ships, and that's what Colton Miller is, right? I think he makes every one of the other 4 guys along that offensive line better, especially a young guy. If JPJ ends up being the dude, right next to him, like there's opportunities here for Colton Miller to make his impact on this offensive line, like, and then to just raise the overall level of consistency and execution among that whole group. So I think we got to take that into consideration too. And then, I think that gives Gardner probably a little bit of, not just confidence, but like, a little bit of like, just take a breath for a second, right? Because now I got this dude over here who I don't have to worry about what's coming off that left side with Colton Miller. So I think that the ultimate judgment and evaluation of what that group looks like up front isn't going to happen until we get, as you said, let's talk week 2, 3, 4 and see where we're at that point.
Yeah, big time. And look, it's, the nature of the beast too, right? Where even if Colton comes in and he's ready to rock week 1, like this dude doesn't have a lot of, time on task with the current other 4, right? Yeah. And Colton is about and Colton is about as consummate professional can be. But at the same time, like this is a dude who missed a majority of training camp. It's going to take a minute to get his sea legs under him. So yes, to your point, we're going to have to wait a few weeks and kind of see what it looks like. But I need to talk rookies with you, sir. Let us begin with the first pick, Mr. Brock Bowers for the Silver and Black. And I remember you and Bucky telling us in, early May, right, that, look, this dude's going to be good. He brings a lot to the table. Everything that you want to see from a prototypical tight end, explosive tight end, that's exactly what he's going to be. And I can report back, although we have not seen him in a ton of preseason action, just going through camp, man. I mean, like, I think the term that we keep coming back to when we talk about Brock, it's as advertised. I mean, in the best possible way, there have been no surprises, and I think this dude's going to be a player in the league, man. I really do.
I would 100% agree with that assessment, Eddie. I mean, like, I'm fired up to see what Luke Getsy can do with Brock Bowers, because let's not pigeonhole him, right, as, a tight end. Okay, because he lined up literally everywhere, especially week 1. It was even out wide. It was in the slot. It was, attached to the line of scrimmage. You put him in the backfield, from time to time. There is no shortage of ways in which you can capitalize on his skill set. And I think now you've got some creativity within this coaching staff to allow Brock Bowers to fly, to really kind of bloom, as one of the Silver and Black's rookie flowers here. I'm really excited to see where he goes with this thing. I'm also excited to see, if we get a little 12 personnel out there, right? We get Mayer and Bowers rolling together, what that does for defenses, how that changes the way that opposing defensive coordinators want to attack, what that does for Devontae out on the edge, and Jacoby, and maybe even Trey Tucker deep, with that sort of situation. So that's really exciting to me. And I don't even know, like, I think we should scratch out TE, and we should just write, like, we should go back to like the high school recruiting moniker of ATH.
Yes.
Just athlete, you know what I mean? Or playmaker. We'll just say PM.
Yeah, I love it. And to your point too, like, I think, and we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of months, and really since camp hit, like, you're 100% right where, I think all of us envision this world where it's Brock and Michael Mayer out there. You got the 12 personnel, but I think what's even kind of more, I don't know if refreshing is the right word, but the thing that I really like is that there is a clear identity to what the Raiders want to do in 2024, right? Like, there is not this secret, what are they going to be about? Like, are they going to do this, that, and the other? Like, you know what you're getting from the Raiders. You're getting a really, really good defense, a defense that we all have really big expectations for in 2024. Yeah. You're going to control the line of scrimmage, regardless of who the quarterback was. You know you wanted to establish the run. You wanted to feed those tight ends. So I think that if you're a fan of the team in 2024, it feels like for the first time in a minute, and certainly compared to 12 months ago, for better or for worse, what the 2024 Raiders are going to be about offensively.
And the other thing that kind of struck me as I've been kind of following along, with as much of the camp storylines as possible here, and keeping track of, my rookie radar is still all the way up here. And it's not just Brock Bowers, but it's Dylan Laube as well. And I think this Raiders team has the ability to be the most versatile offense that this franchise has seen in years, if not decades. And I think that it's possible that it's going to be really hard to pigeonhole the ways in which, Luke Getsy kind of devises ways to put guys into playmaking situations because of the versatility of a Brock Bowers and what Dylan can do as well. A guy caught 100 balls at New Hampshire.
Yeah.
He's fantastic out of the backfield. You get his hands on the ball. He can, he makes plays again in the return game as well. It's not even, let's make sure not to forget that part of it. But and then, obviously you've got one of the best receivers in the game too. So, there's just so many ways I feel like that you can get out of a jam. I think that there's so many answers that this offense can provide with the questions that defenses are posing. So I'm really excited about the ways in which we're going to see this offense deployed.
Yeah, me too. And I think one of the more pleasant, speaking of surprises, one of the more pleasant surprises of camp has been one of those rookies, right? You're looking at DJ Glaze on the right side, who, has, for a variety of reasons, seen a lot of burn, right? He's gotten a lot of opportunity to kind of make his impression felt. And so all of a sudden now you look at this offensive line that you felt pretty good about coming into the season, but now you look at the 2025, the 2026, you have JPJ, you have DJ Glaze. All of a sudden you're like, okay, they're building not only a really good front five, but they're building a really good, 6, 7, 8 deep, which I think is pretty exciting along that the big fellows up front.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest. You're going to need more than 5.
Yeah.
It would be extremely rare to have the same 5 start all 17, and so the fact that you've got guys now that you can rely on, that you can count on, and you've got ways to get your best 5 out there, I think is also, pretty important as well. Depending on where JPJ goes, right? If Andre goes down, can you slide JPJ in there? And the same thing with Dylan, what we've seen him do from the right guard spot, and Thayer Munford, and DJ Glaze, getting a chance to both, have opportunities at that right tackle spot, I think is really important. So yeah, the fact that you can be 7 or 8 deep, gives, I think, everybody on that offense a lot of confidence on game days, knowing next guy in, we're okay.
Yeah, and I think, and again, as from a fan perspective, the fact that maybe your biggest question along the offensive line, and an important question still, is who's going to be your swing tackle? I think that's a good place to be for an offensive line, especially for the Raiders in 2024. But before I let you go here, man, we were talking about the preseason, and it's just so... It's interesting how different teams kind of attack this preseason finale, right? Antonio Pierce made it pretty clear, did not mince his words. He does not expect the starters to play tomorrow night. Even said, heck, we're not going to even see Aiden O'Connell out there doing his thing. It'll be the Carter Bradley and Nathan Peterman show. What do you, where do you fall along that spectrum of should guys play, should they not play? It feels like there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer in how coaching staffs approach this one.
There's a lot of different answers.
Yeah, many answers.
We can agree. We can agree on that. But let me first quickly ring the bell for Carter Bradley.
Okay.
A little bit.
All right, let's do it.
Fired up to watch this South Alabama Jaguar quarterback get after it in silver and black and make this start. I think he's got a real opportunity to solidify maybe a roster spot, if not a for sure practice squad spot for this squad, depending on whether they want to carry 3 quarterbacks or not. I think, having Gardner there and having Aiden with a year under his belt makes the experience of Nathan Peterman, kind of expendable at this point, especially if Carter can give you, if you're confident he can give you a look, right, during the week once we get into the regular season, give you a good look for your defense, that sort of thing. And then now you've got a developmental guy as well here. And I love this opportunity for Carter Bradley. I'm rooting for him, man. He was a fun dude to watch in college and to see down in the All-Star game circuit. So I'm fired up for him. Obviously, Dad is going to be watching this intently for sure from Indy, but I'm excited for Carter. All right, as for preseason, selfishly, Eddie, I am on the desk for much of our NFL Network preseason coverage.
You want them all to play everyone.
Play them all. At least give me a couple of series so that we can throw some highlights in halftime. Okay. And so I'm thankful that AP gave us plenty in the first 2 games. I am thankful for Kyle Shanahan here in game 3 so that we will see at least some starters on one side of the ticket here in this matchup for the Raiders. But yeah, it is kind of weird. It is kind of different, I should say. Not weird. It's just different. I think, you look at this and we're 15 days away from opening weekend in a way. So I think for teams that are choosing to wait until the 3rd preseason game, this does make sense. There's still a long run up until that first actual regular season action. If you want to give your starters, some run here in game 3, but I prefer to see them in 2 games, and I don't really care how you split it. Whether it's 1-3 or 2-3 or 1-2, it all kind of makes sense. But I'd love to see some like Bryce Young. That dude needs to be out there playing, right? And so I'm glad that Dave Canales is going to give him an opportunity here this weekend against the Bills.
Yeah, big time. And to your earlier point, right, like the Raiders starters played a lot of football last week. I mean, we were looking around each other in the box like, oh, Max is still out there? Like, oh, Jack Jones is still out there doing his thing? So, yeah, it's I think what's great about Friday night, or tomorrow night, I should say, is such an opportunity for the guys like Carter Bradley, for the Amari Gainers of the world. Some of these guys who are, you see a roster spot kind of in the distance and you're like, all right, I got to go get it now. Like, this is my chance. I kind of see it floating around. I got to go and steal that one.
And quickly on that front, and this is so hard, I think, once we get beyond this preseason game, because I think for so long, so many of these guys have been competing for roster spots in position battles, right? Like, let's say the receiver battle, that 4th, 5th receiver, spot, whether, Wilkerson and Guyton and that whole crew, fighting it out. You may not, the thing that's hard to fathom is you may not even be fighting with someone on your team right now. You may be fighting the waiver wire pickup that comes, on Tuesday, Wednesday, after that 3rd preseason game, after you feel like you might have made the cut, right? And then, your Tom Telesco is always looking to bolster the bottom of the roster. He sees somebody out there that thinks that, can make the wide receiver group even better than it already is. Dang, man, there you go. So like, that's the thing. Like, you better put your best stuff on tape if you are one of those dudes fighting for that last spot in one of those position groups.
Big time. And AP said that yesterday. He said, look, you're not just putting this tape out here for us, right? There's 31 other teams that if it doesn't work out here, there's 31 other teams that are going to take a look at you. Well, Rhett, dude, it was so good to see you. I look forward to seeing you not only on Sundays this year, but on Saturdays with all the Big Ten coverage as my Oregon Ducks now dive into this new world that we're living in. It'll be a blast, man. And I can't wait to see you and the guys out there doing your thing.
Thanks, brother.
I cannot wait for college ball, dude. I'm very excited for week 1. Can't wait for week 1, obviously, but very excited to see what college football has in store for us this year. So in the meantime, be good. It was so good to see you, and we'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Sounds good, buddy.